Namaste. Welcome to Wise Out Career Guide. Today we have with us Ms. Sheetal Rajani, who's done her MCom and she specialized in marketing over there. So let's welcome Sheetal and hear from her story of how she managed to experience two very different careers in her experience of 15-20 years. Welcome, Sheetal.
Hi, thank you so much.
So, Sheetal, people who have an inclination towards commerce, they go for BCom and then MCom. But what made you get into, marketing per se and not get into the line of CA or any of the other options? What was that, driving force or the thought for it?
Honestly, if I could be blunt, I never wanted to do commerce. My wish to follow was a B.Ed, and I wanted to go teach school. But then the kind of social setup that we are in, everybody goes, "इतने अच्छे marks लेके arts कौन लेता है?" So why not do commerce? So I was like, why don't you go for science? So then I'm like, no, I don't want to do science because I don't see a career, for me there, not something that interests me so much. So they're like, इतने अच्छे marks में अच्छा चलो science नहीं तो commerce तो ले लो, you
Right.
know. So where that's the kind of setup that we used to be in. So I was misguided into getting into commerce, honestly.
Okay.
And then I started to really, really enjoy the marketing piece of it. So I said, yes, I want to go ahead and do something here. Um, then when I did my BBA before my master's, we used to go out and do projects. So when I had a 15-day internship with Britannia Industries in Kolkata, was when I actually went and met the final layer of your actual sellers. So they were all across the city and small suburbs of Kolkata, and I used to meet them, and they were like, "आप advertisement में ऐसा क्यों नहीं करते हो?" Yeah, these are the points of where we are having trouble with the customers. तो तब मुझे ये लगा कि हाँ, that connect with your customer, be it in the form of a marketing campaign or a publicity piece or somewhere where you're being able to communicate, is a place of interest for me. So that's why then in my masters as well, I continued doing marketing, and I was fascinated with the field of advertisement. I used to vouch by Philip Kotler, but so yeah, that was the idea then. I want to get into marketing.
Okay. But I think you went into training and development as your future career.
Absolutely. So while the way I began off with that, I always wanted to get into teaching. So even while I was doing my masters, I used to teach school.
Okay.
And while doing my masters, I used to also teach my college where I did my BBA. I used to teach there for almost 6, 8 months, again, marketing. And so that's what used to give me my high, the ability of being able to stand with people and help them learn, communicate something and see the entire thing come up in their mind, where they understand it, they kind of like it or enjoy it. So that's what I really enjoyed doing. So while I taught school while I was doing my masters, and I was to then start searching out for a job, is when somebody guided me into this thing saying that call centers are the way of going today, and you should you do so much of good communication kind. So why don't you go somewhere into that kind of a field? And that's where I started my journey as a trainer for process training.
Okay.
So from masters in marketing to a trainer in process development and process training for call centers, that's how the corporate journey began.
Okay.
And I
So,
enjoyed doing my trainings for almost 2.5 years. Then obviously you get your corporate growth and stuff happens. So then from process training, I graduated into LNOD. I took my certifications for LNOD. Then I did LNOD for a couple of years. Then I
uh,
managed an entire
Sheetal,
team for training.
just to interrupt, could you give us the full form of LNOD for the audiences who are listening to this?
Yeah, sure. So that is learning and development. This is
Okay.
actually for the entire staff that we have at different levels of leadership that you were in. You
Mhm.
you do a certain amount of training to further your leadership skills.
Okay.
Yeah. So there is developmental activity for a person individually, as well as there are certain skills that you need for going ahead in the leadership board.
Sure.
So for all those things, you do the LNOD training, which is your learning and development training.
Okay.
So the companies that we were with, we did a lot of certifications within the LNOD purview, and basis that we used to continue doing the same kind of activity with the staff of the organizations. So that happened for about 2.5 years. Then we graduated into the training leadership. So I had an entire team of training that developed content, and then we did actually stand-up deliveries in training for LNOD, and we did a lot of process training development as well,
All right.
and then
So,
training audits. So all of the entire bit of corporate training was then something that I moved into completely.
right. So, 15 years back, learning and development as a department, a standalone department, was something we didn't see with many organizations. Organizations which were, dealing with large scale B2C segments were the ones who were into it. But slowly, as the years have progressed, I think it has become the norm of the day for every company to have that and to keep upgrading the skills of their current employees. So, in terms of career growth, how do you see a person who's just finishing their marketing or learning and development through a HR course, be it MBA in HR or any of the other courses that are available? What is the kind of career growth they can look at?
So from a corporate standpoint, um, employee engagement is like critical, and it's
Right.
something that an employee in today's corporate sector expects that the organization will do for them. So if
Right.
you're an HR person, you're always looking at a certain level of engagement activities that you're doing with your organizational staff. At the same time, from a learning and development standpoint, um, you individually also want that you develop leadership in house, so that you have potential candidates for whatever vacancies that come up in your leadership ahead. So
Right.
it is, I think, training, learning and development has huge amount of scope where there is a lot of competition, because you
Okay.
have these setups as well. They are absolute individual units that do only this, and they do it as consultations. So not
Mhm.
necessary every organization would want to have a department of its own for it, but there are organizations that only do training and development.
Right.
So there is scope there. Big organizations, there is obviously scope within the organization, um, but you have to be a people's person for that. you
Right.
know um, One, your level of conviction in what you're doing, and two, your level of you know being with people and
Mhm.
actually being there to help is something that will take you a very long way in the LNOD thing.
All right. So, Sheetal, after your learning and development experience, you decided to switch career completely. I can't
Yes.
even say 360-degree. It's like totally different direction. So, why that change and what is that change, if you can share?
Okay. So as a family person, when your family grows and you have children and you have responsibilities, so you do not want to, or at least I did not want to do those 12 hours of corporate, because it was somewhere taking a toll on my other life. And I wanted a work life balance.
Okay.
Also, there was this need that I felt that there are a lot of things that are made within the country and
Mhm.
sold outside, that is in your exports field, and
Right.
that quality, though made in the country, is not available to the customer of the country.
Correct.
It's like the alfonsos that get exported and the alfonsos that we eat here. There is a little level of difference in the quality if it's a general market that we're talking about.
Right.
So I know of the fact that in textile as well, the same thing applies. A huge
Okay.
amount of apparel, a huge amount of home furnishings get made within the country. They're
Right.
all made in India, exported out, and that quality vis-a-vis what you get in the market today. So I used to feel that, why is it so that we can't get a hand into products like that? We're also okay to pay for that good quality workmanship. And that's when this online idea of selling home furnishings came into the picture. And I was like, okay, so that's a new thing that I want to try my hands on. E-commerce was booming, and again, something that I had zero clue about.
Okay.
All right.
So,
Though I have, I specialized in marketing and I absolutely put all my skills to use. One thing that I've also realized is that with time, marketing changes. While we were into outdoor radio, video medias, today the whole world is only social. Even now that while we're doing this conversation, we're again on a social platform.
right.
So is why again e-commerce happened, because going online is, I think, the norm of the day. And we started selling home furnishings, and that was an entrepreneurship activity that I began off about 4 years ago. And by
Okay.
the name of AJS Living, we're live on various selling platforms like Amazon, Flipkart, and the others. We
Mhm.
have a website of our own, and we do home furnishings.
Okay, so getting into the process of starting your own business, what was that journey like? What were the things that you had to, prepare beforehand before you could go live on any of the platforms? What are the things that you had to keep in mind, the pros and cons?
Sure. So while we're saying going online, it's a Pandora's box. uh,
Right.
if you're setting up a business, there are some very basic essentials and requirements that you need, from your legal standpoint, from your financial standpoint, from the actual administrative setup standpoint of your activity that you want to do. So all of that took me almost about 6 months, from something as basic as learning to go opening a bank account on your own for a corporate activity or for a business activity is not as easy as doing a savings account that the corporate that you worked for did. It's like
Right.
you had an HR department that did all your accounting requirements, and all you had to do was sign forms. And now you're actually walking to the bank yourself and doing all your basics on your own. So from there, it's a learning phase every day. When
Okay.
you want to do something online, obviously a lot of digital marketing comes handy. So while I had a background in marketing, I also had help from digital marketing teams that helped me really come to the place that I am in today.
Mhm.
So digital marketing, the ability to be able to understand how e-commerce works at large, and a lot of imaging, a lot of photography. So I think anything that you've learned in life doesn't go waste, because it gets used somewhere or the other for some or the other activity that you're obviously doing. So while marketing helped me understand social digital marketing so much easier, my inability, so to say, to manage photography was something that again gave me something to learn new.
Mhm.
So all of that put together, you need your digital marketing, you need your ability with photography, you need your content writing ability. That came to me when we did a lot of LNOD trainings, and we did a lot of development of content. When you realize that when you're actually going live with a product and you want to describe something online, it is again a complete different ball game. So all of that put together is becoming an entrepreneur, I guess.
Right. So, if I were to ask you between offline and online selling of products, one, obviously your reach becomes much higher when you're going online because, then you're not restricted to the geography. Were there any other factors that, people who are thinking of getting into e-commerce should debate or keep in mind where while they're, thinking whether it should be online or offline? Or are you also thinking of going offline now that you have an online presence?
Honestly, not just as yet, because the basic purpose for doing the whole thing going online was because I wanted to be able to stay flexible on my time.
Okay.
So today, while I can do my product development and say, for example, I want to do a cleansing activity of everything that I have online. I want to make sure that my images are right or my product is right, and I need to process my orders. I can do that at 2:30 in the night,
Right.
right? So where time is not at all a foundation, is why online becomes so much more easier, because you can do things at your pace. You have to give in that 8, 10, 12 hours, but that those 8, 10, 12 hours can be divided, can be at your pace, and whenever you want that to happen. So that's one thing for online personally. Two, obviously, the almost 60% of your market today goes online. So while offline presence is, makes it so much more easier to get your customers' pulse, because you're standing right in front of your customer and you're getting that feedback instantaneously. um, it requires a certain discipline of number of hours, like you need to have, begin at a particular time and you close at a particular time. Now that closing time can get extended when it's festive or when it's season time for you. When you're doing all of that online, it becomes so much more your pace, like you decide when you want to do it. So at least currently, till the time I'm doing juggle between children and work, I want to be able to justify both. Maybe sometime later, I would want to do a setup of my own, a retail counter.
Okay. So, Sheetal, for all those who are planning to get into this segment, what are those, one or two key things that you would suggest they should keep in mind when they're deciding on the product and the places that they're going to market? Whether it's going to be through their own website or through other aggregators like Amazon, Flipkart, or even Meesho that is there. What are those two, three key points that they should keep in mind while starting it?
Um, so when, it's always said that when you plan better, you've done half your work well.
Right.
So while a lot of us know that Amazons and the other e-commerce giants will very easily tell you can go online, and it's like snap of your finger and you're there. But it is a lot of hard work. It is huge amount of research in terms of what exactly is it that the market requires, and if you have that product to sell, to understand how your competition works, whether you're able to sustain the price wars, the product quality wars, and the overall customer experience. So, which is second. So, these are all homework that you need to get into beforehand. How much of finance is it that you really want to invest into, and for how many years are you planning to do it? And are you okay with it? What exactly is the product that you're looking at? Basis the kind of product that you're looking at, you decide on your marketing strategy online. So if you're doing even something as simple as Google ads or some Insta ads, then you need to really know what your target audience is. Like if you're doing apparel, then you're looking at an Insta ad where impulse buying is so much more easier, or a Google ad where impulse buying is so much more easier. So depending on, now if I'm trying to sell, say, some content for children, okay,
Right.
like some training content for children on, say, public speaking or something else, then I'm targeting that kind of an audience.
Right.
So where it is that you want to place your product, what is it that you're selling, and then into how you're going to market it. And
Right.
final comes the actual execution, where whatever you're promising online, are you delivering? Because that is key for sustenance.
Right. And as you said, Amazon and all will make you believe that you can start selling instantly and you'll become a millionaire tomorrow. But in reality, what is the kind of gestation period that we're looking at? 3 months, 6 months, because once you put your products online, it's not like, instantly you're top of the line. I don't
Absolutely.
think that happens because
That
that.
generally would not happen. Now, for example, if I'm talking about myself, home furnishings is a very well selling category in the country, but it is hugely competitive,
Correct.
and the tastes and the needs will continuously vary basis season, basis fashion, basis festives, and you have to be right on the trot, understanding what the need is and then developing products accordingly. And you'll have to keep bringing in that change every now and then to make sure that you're right there with the expectation. Having said that, certain products will always have a faster gestational period if you've done your research like really, really well. Now, and I'm very hypothetically saying what I'm saying now. Uh, so there is this huge need in, say, some gadget segment that the people really want. And there is a company that's manufacturing, for example, when the earpods started off, from our hands free to the earpods. Now people who started selling the earpods right at the beginning, when the demand just began off, they would have broken even like within 6 8 months, because the demand of this product was so huge. So while I do my research today, I would be able to understand that in the next 5 6 months, what exactly is going to sell in the field that I'm interested in. Is it home care? Is it pet care? Now people who sell pet products, their gestational period is very, very little. It could be anything around a year.
Correct.
So there was this instant craze for pet beds in between. So now I know of friends who started off they were doing only the pet food, and now they do pet beds and pet clothes and stuff, and that segment is going crazy.
Mhm.
So while when the COVID thing happened, a lot of us also understand that we've had more pets in the house, we've had more time to really bond with our pets, and suddenly that segment saw a boom.
Right.
So if you're at the right place at the right time, and that will only happen not because you're lucky, maybe some of us are like extremely lucky, but mostly because you've done your research right. So you can
And
look at
based on
anything from 6 8 months to say 2 3 years, depending on what segment is it that you're getting into.
right. And your research, what it holds today, might not hold true in 6 months' time as well, because the
Absolutely.
likings and the needs can change.
They can
And
change.
what is looking like a booming sector might not be so. It might become stagnant within 6 months.
Absolutely. And is why, while we're doing something online, we always have to slowly figure out ways of having an offline presence, not necessarily a retail setup of your own, but could be exhibitions, could be personal clientele development, using Insta and a lot of other social media. If you get a base of customers who are loyal to you, and you're being able to deliver to their expectations, then that helps you as a second outflow for your activity that you're doing. If you're selling e-commerce, you can't only sustain e-commerce, except that you have certain outlets otherwise.
Okay. So, Sheetal, now looking at both your journeys, one in corporate world, one as an entrepreneur, what would you suggest that one thing that people who are thinking in either segment, whether to get into the corporate journey or starting something of their own, what is that one thing that they should keep in mind which will help them grow?
Okay. I think one thing that really, really is critical is A, the right attitude, and two is your ability to do hardcore mehnat, the typical Indian word. If you're ready to really, really slog it, I think there is success in everything that you do. For our young guys who are just going to start into their career journeys, please understand that nothing is just right or wrong. If you're, for example, if you're training to become a doctor and you've always wanted to become a doctor, kudos to you, that's great. But if you're like me, who started off wanting to teach and then doing something completely different, if you found your groove, if you're happy doing what you're doing, and it's giving you the sustenance and the living pattern that you really want, I think you've made it. And it's yours. Do not compare yourself with anybody for that matter. Just go ahead and be ready to really, really work hard.
Right. Thank you so much, Sheetal. It was really interesting talking to you and understanding two very different worlds, coming from the same person. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, and thank you so much for having me over.
So that was Miss Sheetal Rajani sharing her experience first of a corporate life and then life of an entrepreneur. And what she said that you don't need to compare yourself with anybody else, because what you decide to do in your life and how you reach there, whether it's in the first time or you take your time to reach there, doesn't matter, as long as you are able to sustain yourself and your family and you enjoy doing what you're doing. It just doesn't matter who else is doing what and where they've reached, because your journey is going to be totally different from somebody else's journey. So don't make that comparisons. Just try and give 100% of whichever field you've chosen to work in, and you will succeed in life. If you have any questions about training and development or the entrepreneurship segment that she is in terms of e-commerce, please do write below in comments and we'll answer all your questions. Do like, share and subscribe the channel. Thank you.